Warning, the following podcast is brought to you by dads who can never remember the Wi-Fi password. Welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast.
Hey, welcome to All Pro Dad Podcast. My name is Ted Lowe, and I'm joined today by Bobby Lewis, BJ Foster.
Hey, Ted.
Got a lot of kids, about 9, I'd say, and a lot of questions. Let's just dive in here, guys. Let me ask you, when you were growing up, what'd you want to be when you grew up? Like, what'd you want to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to be a major league shortstop. I wanted to play pro baseball, and that was what I wanted from the time I picked up a bat until the time I realized I would not achieve that dream.
Well, I mean, there's still time.
There's not much time left, no.
Yeah.
There's still time.
Well, he stole mine. I wanted to do that was the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I was like, this seems like a fun job.
What went wrong?
Look at me.
Oh, I was too slow, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I made too many errors in high school.
The curveball was what went wrong for me. I couldn't hit that. So yeah. Oh well.
I get it.
This is going to come as a shocker, but guess what I want it to be?
I have a guess.
Okay.
Did you? You might have shared this with me before, but did you want to be a crop duster?
Yes. Dude, I am
Like
telling
the
you.
plane that drops the pesticides?
Let me just tell you something, guys. We grew up on a farm, and once a year, this unbelievable airplane would come flying through. It'd come right to our house and go over our house. My brother and I would stand out there watching with pesticides falling all over us. We're like, I'm certain this is what's wrong with both of us. But we're like, I want to be that guy.
Just descending.
Yeah. Just descending on it. So I'm pretty sure that's a lot of my problems.
Ted's bald, by the way.
Yeah,
It could have been the pesticides.
But yeah, growing up, that was fun. That was the most exciting thing I'd ever seen. Now, the reason I want to ask you guys this question is that according to a 2023 survey by Morning Consult, more than half of kids today, guess what they want to be? They want to be influencer.
Yeah.
They want to be an influencer. Mm-hmm. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can. Actually, there's a number of my kids' friends who have YouTube channels of their own. I'll never forget. I dropped my son off at his friend's house. I think they were like 9 years old. And he said, Dad, we made a video of us playing a video game of playing Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront. And I was like, really? And so I started watching this video, and I didn't watch the whole thing because it was like 45 minutes long, but he was like, hey, we're just going to be playing Battlefront today. And if you like this video, click like or subscribe. And I'm like, what? So he's doing kind of all of those things. But we do have a coworker, a friend that we work with at Family First, and her daughter, without her knowledge, like she was just on vacation and found out her daughter, who I believe was like 7 at the time, had created her own YouTube channel and had made a video on their vacation and put it up. And she's like, yeah. And I made her take it down and cancel the page right away. And at the time I remember thinking, okay, but like, what? How detrimental can this possibly be? Like, who's watching this video other than her friends? Until I found out she had 1,000 page views, or she had 1,000 views on this one video that she had made. 7-year-old girl. And so that's when I was like, ugh.
What were they doing? Just like playing at the park? Or
I don't know. She had just kind of put this video together and put it up on YouTube, and yeah.
Which means she got an email address as a 7-year-old.
I guess
you have to just make an account,
Or maybe she was a little bit old. Maybe she was 10, but it's still kind of, that's still pretty young and I thought, okay, yeah, probably a good idea that you cancel that out.
Well, I think you're the one that put this topic on the board when we were saying, what do we need to talk about on the podcast? And I was thinking, really, BJ? And I was like, you look at the statistics and you're like, yes, really, this is a big deal. Kids are really drawn to this. They really want to be influencers. There is a documentary on Netflix called Bad Influence, The Dark Side of Kid Influencing, just kid influencer. And it exposed this whole world that I didn't know existed of kids that were influencers. And this particular documentary kind of teaches about this whole world through the life of a girl named Piper Raquel. And she starts this thing. Her mom starts this thing when this girl is 9 years old, and it blows up. And then she starts adding other kids to it. And I think it was called the squad. So all these kids are coming on. She's getting all their parents because it takes a village to pull this thing off. And they were making millions upon millions of dollars. But what was happening is they were having to up their game as far as what these kids were doing online, to where it became where there would be relationships. I get relationships were all the rage. So they would put this person in the squad and this person in the squad and have a relationship, and it just blew up out of control. And it just exposed, right? It just exposed this whole world. And so the question is this good for my kid? If my kid comes to you, and it sounds like a lot of kids are just doing it, they're not coming to mom and dad, is it good for a kid to be an influencer?
Here's the line that stuck out to me from the trailer for this particular documentary. The line was, is it really okay for my child's vulnerabilities to be displayed to random strangers? And I think the answer is no, it's not okay.
So our big question of the week, is it okay for kids to be influencers? What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I just said no, and I still believe it. I mean, 1,000 times no. Like, it's not okay. And we're going to get into a couple of the reasons. But when you were just describing that documentary, like, I was starting to feel like a lot of stuff towards the mom who, like, put the kids in this situation. And I just don't think this is good for kids in any way.
You watch that documentary, you will really believe that.
Yeah, Bobby's the one that turned me on to the documentary, and clearly in that situation, you've got some abusive stuff going on. Like it is kind of horrifying to watch, and the situations they put kids in is there's no excuse for the things that the content they were producing. But then there's the question, okay, outside of that, like it's just in general. And I just kind of think of kids in the position that they're trying to figure out who they are. They've got a lot of shifting things going on, a lot of change happening inside them, a lot of confusion. They're trying to figure out where they belong. They're trying to figure out their sense of power in the world and the influence that they have. And all of that stuff, when you're just trying to figure that out, and you're doing that in front of a lot of people. I mean, we're going to get into all the things of that, but I just kind of think that's kind of one reason that at best gives me hesitation for all of it.
And here's the tricky thing is you and I both said we wanted to be baseball players, right? So my mom had come in and said, no, I don't want you to pursue being a baseball. I would have been upset. So like there's a lot of dads probably listening whose kids have expressed interest in being a social media influencer. And they're not going to like it if you say no. So we're going to have to navigate how to have these conversations.
And there's a difference between eventually becoming a professional baseball player and being a professional baseball player now at the age of 13. You know, when you see some of these kids just even coming out of college at age 20 and all of a sudden they're exposed, you see them get into a lot of trouble at age 20. So, you know, if you're an influencer at age 15
or like this documentary
13,
9 or
12,
something like that.
Starts at 9.
Yeah. 9 years old. So there's just, there's a lot of things that is getting heaped onto the kid that they have no idea. Like they kind of think, oh, you know, this would be great to be famous and all that stuff. They can't see the larger picture. We can. And that's what we need to kind of dive into.
But Bobby, to your point, I think it makes sense for us to start with empathy for our kids because since screens, kids have wanted to be who they're seeing on the screens, who they're seeing in the movies, athletes. But there were two things that kept that from happening. One was location. I'm not near this. Two was age. Both those barriers are gone because now the, location is in their pocket and the age is right now. So just starting, kids are seeing it. It looks fun. Everybody, our generation wanted to be famous baseball player. We wanted to be famous crop dusters. I need to have empathy for all the crop dusters out there.
Famous crop duster.
So just starting out with empathy, right? Of course they do. They want to be famous. We wanted to be famous. That's how it works. So start there with our kids. It's always a good place. Empathy is always a great place to start. And I got to tell you, we always want to balance these episodes and really, with positives, with negatives. And I really did try to find some positive things from this. And I didn't come up successful, but I reached out to my son, who is a 7th grade math teacher, and I texted him. I said, hey, what do you think about kids being influencers? He said, I just think being in any sort of spotlight as a child is a terrible idea. Plus, the priorities for kid influencers are very different than a normal kid, and that will mess you up. I also texted one of our friends who has a close friend whose kid is a pretty famous influencer, makes a lot of money, moved from Atlanta to LA and is making a lot of money. He's 22. And I said, what do you think about this? And she said, it feels cringy because he's always half naked with his abs showing. He's a great kid, great family, but I don't know about the positives other than he makes bank being cute. So that's what I came up with when I went fishing for something positive.
So start showing my abs. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at least he's 22. Like, I think,
exactly.
The place that I would kind of start
but
is he started how
9th grade.
Oh, so that's like 15, something like that. Yeah.
I think the number one kind of concern and the things that I was looking at has got to be safety. So, couple reports. These should turn your stomach a little bit, but the Wall Street Journal reported in 2024 that the followers of one particular preteen girl influencer, so preteen girl, that's 12, that's 12 and under, preteen girl influencer, her followers were 92% adult men.
Ugh.
Is correct. Yeah. The journal also said that, and this is where it gets even worse, that Meta's algorithm, so that's Facebook, Instagram, will then recommend users, this is quote, will then recommend users sexual content related to both children and adults. It will recommend child-focused accounts for the user to follow. So these men that are following children, it's going to recommend more children for them to follow, and then also help them to connect with other people who are interested in the same things. So like, then you've got kind of these sort of child predators that are linking up together in order to work together.
It's a network of like-minded people.
Yeah. The New York Times reported that one man even commented on one of the sites. It's like a candy store. End quote, quote, end quote. While another wrote, God bless Insta moms, end quote, for putting their kids on the app.
Yeah, this is.
So the question is do we want to expose our kids to this type of people that have this kind of ill will towards, I remember being in a city one time. It's a city I don't really enjoy that much, but I remember being in a city one time and I could just sort of feel ill will around me. And I'm like, I don't want to be here. Like there's something I'm feeling around me. Like, I just sort of feel like there's ill will. And I just sort of feel like you put your kids out there to be influencers, you're putting them right in the center of a lot of people who mean ill will.
Yep. And I will say this, I bet you most of these moms, I mean, not that they should have done it, not making excuses, but I bet a lot of these moms and dads of these influencers don't have a clue that this is what's going on. They wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say that I could just hear the dads, and it makes me feel kind of sick listening to that stuff and angry, but I can hear the dads saying, well, that's like just a couple of accounts. That's not every account. Like, that's not your friends whose daughter had a vacation video. Like, that's totally different. Maybe true, but your kid also could be the one who's got 92% adult males watching content,
I think it's more common. Like, I think they need to realize that these are statistics on one kid that are probably consistent. It's not like, oh, this is the preteen girl that has all the 92% men. Yeah. No, there are probably men that are kind of like following all of these accounts.
Outliers.
No, probably not. Your kid probably follows the same statistics that are out there already.
Another thing to consider if your kid has come to you and said, I want to be a kidfluencer, I want to have an influencing career on social media, is there is intense pressure on kids. And we can say that because we understand as adults doing stuff for dads and husbands all day long that there's like a grind involved in creating content. And we're trying to do uplifting, positive content for dads. But like for the example you gave, Ted, this particular documentary that followed these kids, they had to push the boundaries more and more and more and more to get people to continue to stay interested. That's stress and pressure to perform, to even act a certain way, to continue to churn out the content that people want, because once money gets involved in it, now you make money by churning out more stuff. So much pressure. I mean, we work hard to get stuff out, once a week for this podcast. I can't imagine a kid having to do it multiple times a month. Like that's way too much for kids.
And we're old. And we have got years and years worth of experience and stories to add. I mean, I'm 51 years old and they're having to come up with content every day. But this is and that leads kind of into the other one, which is the exploitation. And I think a lot of parents would go, I would never exploit my child. And I don't think any parent that was in this documentary would say that they would exploit their child either. But when the money starts rolling in,
they would.
It becomes very difficult. I think people underestimate how difficult it is to turn the money faucet off. And it's very easy to just make excuses like, it's not that bad, or, I'm here and I'm walking them through it. And, or maybe they can just do it for a little while longer and they keep their kid. I mean, that was in the documentary, it was an obvious abuse situation. And yet moms kept their kids in it because, number one, the kid would say, I want to keep doing it.
Right.
And
their money was like they were playing a sport, and the kid goes, I want to keep playing baseball.
Right.
Yep.
And I think the parent would immediately, if it weren't for the money, I think the parent would immediately be like, yeah, I know you want to keep doing it, but like, absolutely not. This is a horrific situation. You're in a very dangerous situation. It's showing in its influence in you, but there's something about when you have the combination of the two, that it makes it very difficult. The temptation is just too high for us to make a good decision as a parent.
Right.
And so why do we really want to put ourselves in that kind of situation where we're tempted to let our kids into a situation where it's bad, negative, unhealthy, potentially traumatizing for some cash that it's hard for us to turn down?
Well, and even if there's not cash, all of these kids, all of us on social media, you've put yourself in the realm of the possibility of negative feedback.
Yeah.
And we're adults and sometimes we can't handle negative feedback.
Yeah. One more thing though, on kind of all of this stuff, you look at the world of child actors and what that's been like in Hollywood, and you've got a number of abuse that's kind of happened there. And over the years, over decades, they've had to put laws in place to protect kids. On social media, there are no laws protecting these kids. Absolutely none. None. And you look at all of the casualties of child actors. I mean, all of the things where you've seen drug abuse, you've seen suicides, you've seen a lot of them have trouble with the law over and over and over again. And of course it's still happening, but it's gotten better as there have been laws been put into place to kind of protect them. But it's like we're making the same mistake all over again with influencers on social media.
You're exactly right. And now there's new mistakes to make, right? Now there's, the opportunity, there's a billboard that says, hey, how do you feel about me? And people, as we know, get very brave and very nasty about this thing. And so, and adults, we have a hard time dealing with this, much less a kid. Jimmy Kimmel has this thing on his show called Mean Tweets.
It's one of the best things ever.
It's funny. And so we have the stars on there and they'll read something mean someone said about them. Here's one. This is Julia Roberts said, there are people who think Julia Roberts is beautiful. How? Her gigantic mouth looks like it could devour an elephant in one bite. Of course, she laughs. Everybody laughs. But if she's not off limits and she's not considered beautiful, she's Julia Roberts, by the way, nobody's off limits. So they're open to all these comments and communication from trolls. So it's just a scary thing.
And a lot of like when you watch those mean tweets, there's some like Julia Roberts that laugh at them, but you see some of these. I mean, these are celebrities who are some of the best looking people in the world, some of the most talented people in the world who've received a lot of affirmation. And some of them read these things and you can see them just kind of go like it impacts them. And if it impacts them, a kid trying to figure out who they are.
I mean, and we get it here. I mean, we'll get some comments online, right? For articles, or we used to do events at, speaking events, and they'll do feedback cards, and they would be, 1,000 cards, and, God, that was great. And then there'd be 2. Who is this guy? Who's this bald idiot? That really hurts my feelings. But I'm thinking, kids?
We did one of those for All Pro Dad a couple months ago, and we kind of chuckled at it because it was a video that I did in my garage, and I was basically, fiddling with a tool, and I was telling a story about how my son got to use the drill and put together the shelf that we just bought. And I was like, that was super fun. It was like hundreds of thousands of views and a bunch of comments of people like, well, maybe someday his dad will get some real tools, like that sort of stuff, because they were like a cheap brand of tools. And I was like, okay, whatever, random person, like it doesn't change my life in any way. I just thought it was funny, but it could be way worse than that, like way worse. And so like for a kid, what's that going to do to their little developing brain,
A study by Child Psychiatry and Human Development showed that negative feedback resulted in increased feelings of guilt and shame, and all of that can lead to lower self-image. I mean, we don't need a stat to tell us that, right? So it just sets them up for it, and they've already dealing with it at school. They don't need the world into that. It's just too scary.
Yeah. So inherently, like we're talking about being a kid influencer. Where do you do your influencing? Well, you do it online. Like we talked about that a little bit, but there's a social media element here too. We've done a lot of conversations about social media in the past. In fact, one of our favorites was episode 46. It's called How Do I Parent in a Social Media World? Go back and listen to that because it's got a lot of really good tips about, how to help your kids navigate Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Well, they're not using Facebook, but like those sort of things. TikTok, like how are kids supposed to manage it? It's a really good conversation, and we'll link that in the show notes. But social media by nature is addictive. It just keeps you coming back for more and more. And when you're now part of the cog that's driving content, like it's just even more addictive because now you're part of the machine, But I think that social media influencers, it just keeps kids glued to something that's hurting them. I came across a clip from Dr. Phil, who was hosting a lot of people on his show talking about influencing, and he hosted a young woman who confessed to him, essentially, I became suicidal over, a lot of the content I was doing. She was living such a segregated life. She would post things online as an influencer, and she would talk to her followers over and over again all day and make it look like her life was perfect. But in the background, her life was falling apart, and she had to keep up the good face to kind of keep the money coming in over and over. This is one of the things she said on the show. This woman said, when you live to perform, authenticity dies. And that's essentially what influencers do. They're just performing over and over again. You become a fake version of yourself when you're trying to influence in many ways. And maybe not every time, maybe you can be authentic, but you're going to have to, at some point, kind of continue to just be what people want you to be. And maybe that leads you away from authenticity. Our buddy Dale Alexander has been on the podcast before, and he's talked to us about how to have good conversations about money. And one of the things he told us in his episode was people go broke trying to look rich. Same kind of idea with influencing. Like people go morally broke trying to influence others just to maintain that fame or that popularity or whatever it happens to be. Another thing that's kind of a problem with the influencing space for kids is that everything has to look just right. Just so. And there was the British report that I found that said 90% of people 18 to 30 admitted to using a filter or some sort of photo editing software tool to change their photos before they post them online. That's adults 18 to 30. So if adults are doing it, of course the kids are going to mimic because they're watching other influencers and they're watching, like your 22-year-old shirtless guy you're talking about. Like if that guy's doing it, we're going to have to do the same thing. And that's not a good thing to get caught in.
I tried to use it and the software told me there's only so much I can do.
Oh, well, lucky you.
I will tell you this, that's just a joke, but this is for real. In ChatGPT, I put my picture in there and I was just sort of playing around with it. And I said, make this guy look sexy. And I kind of thought it'll morph my face. I'm like,
muscles or
I'm
something?
like, it'll give me like a facial expression. Maybe it'll turn me into Zoolander or whatever. Yeah. It brought back a completely different person. It was like, we can't do anything with that.
Sorry about that. ChatGPT, we can do everything, but not that.
We can't do that. And this guy might have a possibility, but not you.
No. Oh.
Maybe you should have tried Facetune. Have you heard of that app? Facetune. No. I had never heard of it either. Apparently it's a software app that you can use, and it kind of softens features, takes away, dark spots under your eyes, whatever, kind of adjust your photos. And apparently the Body Positive Alliance found that 71% of people used it before posting a photo to Instagram. That's wild. So here's one of the reasons that we think this is important to talk to your kids about. The Mental Health Foundation survey said that 54% of girls said that images on social media have caused them to worry about their body image. Now, boys did this too, but way, way less often. And so if you're talking about influencing, you're introducing the idea that you have to look a certain way, you have to sound a certain way, you have to act a certain way, and keep this going, because the persona that you're presenting to the world has to be just right, or you're going to lose your influence. And that's a dangerous place for kids to be.
Okay. With all these dangers and all this tendency for kids to want to be in it, why in the world would kids want to do this? Why do you guys think?
I think there's a couple things. Number one, it gives them a creative outlet. They can do stuff. Kids, a lot of days, they're trying to satisfy the expectations of adults, the things that they want them to do, the lists that they want them to accomplish. And this gives them a little world of their own that they can create whatever they want to create, and they can do whatever they want to do, and they can say whatever they want to say. It also gives them the opportunity to interact with an audience, maybe even evaluate an audience, like see what stuff hits, what doesn't, what draws people in, what doesn't. And then on top of that, it does give them the opportunity to kind of test this idea of what kind of power and influence do I have in the world in real time, and kind of see exactly what they've got and what influences well and what doesn't. It kind of gets them a little bit outside of their kind of normal world, particularly if maybe they're a person who doesn't have a lot of influence at their school, and then they can kind of create this persona online and kind of live through that.
Got the potential of being famous.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, yeah.
Well, that's not all that it's cracked up to be. And the reason that I know that is because I found a TED Talk from a young woman. She's a fashion designer, and she graduated college, pursued fashion. I believe she lived in Paris for a little while. Her name was Sandra Birnbaum. And here are some of the quotes that she gave in her TED Talk about becoming an influencer. And she didn't have a gigantic following. It was, a couple thousand people, but big enough that she was able to make money. Here's what she said. Anxiety was very common for me. That's not great. I felt so conflicted that I was contributing to mental health crisis. Not great either. I did it because I wanted to be liked, but it was really just superficial attention online. This is a young 20-something girl. And then I came away from the whole thing after listening to her and the tone of her voice and how she was kind of regretting it, thinking if adults like this young woman, 20-some years old, were regretting and struggling being influencers, how much more so for one of the preteens you were talking about, BJ, or someone who's even in high school? How much more so are they going to regret or struggle with this decision?
Mm-hmm. So our kids come to us. One of the dads that are listening kid comes to them and says, "Hey, I want to be an influencer." What do we say?
Well, I think you don't want to just shut them down immediately. You want to get kind of behind. You want to kind of figure out what's going on. You want a conversation. You shut them down immediately, and they're just going to resent it, and then they're going to probably try to go behind your back. So kind of talking through it. Why have you thought about what this looks like? Have you kind of given them the questions that you kind of know the answers to, like what do you think the results are? What would you do when people start being negative on you? Maybe even opening up to potential bullying. Do you know how to handle that? How would you handle that?
To get curious with them.
Yeah. Like, have you thought about the fact that like you'd have to create content kind of every day and what that feels like? Do you have enough stuff to do? Who are the people out there that are going to be watching you, and what are going to be their motivations for it? Like, and can you handle, like there are all these questions that, and I think maybe even just kind of relaying some of these stories. Like, here's a couple people who are influencers. Here's a couple things that they said. How's it going to be different for you? And so that doesn't mean we're like, yeah, dive into it. But like starting it with a conversation, I think is probably the best way to kind of go.
Yeah. And at the end of that conversation, if they still say, yeah, I want to do it, then what? Look them in the eye and say, sweetie, heck no, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
what do you do? Like,
yeah, it could be that. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I get that you want to do it. But here's the thing. I'm weighing all the positives and negatives of this thing. I'm seeing all the safety concerns. And I got to tell you, as an adult whose brain is fully formed, who kind of sees things sometimes that you don't, I'm seeing the picture of this thing and thinking it's not the time. Like, if you want to do it later, maybe if this is something that you want to do when you're 20, maybe it's something where you want to show your abs when you're 22, maybe. Or, like at that point, I probably don't have I don't have a say in it, but I do have a say now, and I pay for that phone and I pay for that deal. And I'm not going to put you in a situation that
too much.
I'm not going to put you in a situation that's unsafe or that we'll potentially regret.
You're using more words than me. I'd have just said no, but I love all your words.
Yeah. No, but it does speak to, we can say no to anything, but I think that empathy and that start with that understanding, like they have to know that you know what they're talking about, because they're looking at Dad, you don't know.
But I think also the point of it, if I can put myself in that situation, I would say, I love you so much that I don't want to put you in harm's way, and I think this is going to put you in harm's way. That's what I would do, and I don't want to be like I'm the ruler of this house and that's how it goes. But I want to be the guy who says, I love you and care about you. And my job is to protect you, whether it's right here in this room or when we're outside walking in the parking lot or when you're online or whatever. My job is to protect you. And I think I'm protecting you by saying no. I think that's what I would do.
I think ultimately it's like this. It's like teens. It would be like teaching somebody how to swim. Okay. And being like, okay, you're learning how to swim, and now I'm going to give you 2 bowling balls to carry. Like they do not have the strength to do that. And it's just going to suck them down to the bottom immediately. And there are a lot of people, I don't think from that as influencers that can carry that kind of weight. There's only certain people that are really built to kind of do this kind of thing. And there are a lot of people that even make it big that still can't carry the weight and don't do it well. And you see the ramifications of it. That one story you shared. But like a kid, like, hey, I'm not going to give you like when you're learning how to swim, I'm not going to give you a bowling ball to carry. And that's what this would be doing.
We're the first generation, once again, to deal with this. We're the first generation of dads that's going to walk their kids through this. Yeah. And I think a lot of dads listening are going, whoa, maybe like I was, to go, I didn't know kid influencers were even a thing, much less a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's very, very destructive for kids. So this is an important conversation. I'm glad we're having it. Yeah. So dads, thank you. We're going to go ahead and go into our pro move of the week. And that is to have a discussion with your kids about influencers, and ask your kids who they're following on social media or watching on YouTube. Then ask them what they think life is like for those influencers. Have a conversation with your kids, and you don't have to go in saying, hey, I know everything about it. Going, help me understand this. Yeah. And because I hear it's not a really good thing at all. You guys think this one's heavy. This had a couple of moments. I went, that's heartbreaking to me, but I'm so glad that we can bring this kind of stuff into the light, and so we can talk about it and protect our kids, keep them safe, take them in a good direction. So this is good. And thank you guys. Hey, we wanted to let you know about a thing that we have called the Play of the Day. It's a short email that comes to you every day. It takes about 2 minutes to read. It just has some good information for you, some good tips that, again, takes you moments to read. So make sure you do that. You can find that in the show notes where to sign up for that. And we want to say, most of all, thank you for listening. We know that you and your kids will be glad that you did.
Thanks again for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. Behind every episode is our amazing team. Producer Haley Mawat, audio and video editor Buck Buchanan, and production coordinator Corey Walliff. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. So remember, if you have more questions than answers, then you're probably in the right place. See you next time.